Your body can be strong, your fists can be deadly, but if your mind is weak, you've already lost. Because battles aren't just fought in the ring, they're fought in your thoughts, your beliefs, your habits. You want to stay ahead of 99% of people, then educate your mind, sharpen it every single day, not once a week, not when you feel motivated, every day without excuse. When you train the mind, you control your emotions, you master your reactions, you become unshakable. This is how warriors rise. This is how legends are born. While others stayed asleep, distracted and comfortable, I kept rising, quietly, relentlessly, and that's what made all the difference. 1. Feed your mind like you feed your body. Every day you make sure your body eats breakfast, lunch, dinner. You feel the hunger and you respond. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt your mind was hungry? Most people don't even notice it. They wake up and feed their bodies with food, but they feed their minds with noise. Scrolling through nonsense, watching meaningless drama, arguing over opinions that don't matter. That's not nourishment. That's mental junk food. You want to rise? You want to become more than average? Then you must treat your mind like a temple, not a trash bin. Just like your muscles grow with protein, your mind grows with knowledge, with reflection, with the kind of information that stretches your thinking. I didn't just read books. I studied them. I didn't just consume knowledge. I digested it. I sought wisdom from everywhere. Eastern philosophy, Western science, ancient texts, modern ideas. I fed my mind every day because I knew this. Your body can be strong, but if your mind is weak, you are still vulnerable. If you want to become dangerous in the right way, powerful, focused, sharp, then begin to feed your mind like it's your greatest weapon. Not once a week, not when you feel motivated, but every day. Start with 30 minutes a day, something real, something that challenges you. Over time, you'll feel it. Your thoughts become clearer, your words become sharper, your actions more precise. So ask yourself now, what did you feed your mind today? Was it wisdom or just distraction? Your future depends on the answer. 2. Read to expand, not just to escape. Reading is not just a pastime. It's a tool, a weapon, but most people misuse it. They read to escape their lives, not to upgrade them. They look for distraction, not direction. They pick stories that make them forget who they are, instead of ones that remind them who they could become. When I read, I wasn't looking for comfort. I was looking for confrontation. I wanted books that would challenge me, shake me, make me rethink the world. A book is a mirror. A book is a doorway. It either shows you something about yourself, or takes you somewhere you've never been. If it doesn't do either, it's not worth your time. Don't read passively, read like a warrior. Engage with the words, argue with them, write notes, reflect, apply. When I read philosophy, I didn't just admire the ideas, I tested them in my daily life. When I read about discipline, I practiced it before sunrise. When I read about emotion, I observed mine like a monk. You must understand this. Your mind is shaped by the ideas you allow in. If you constantly consume fiction, fantasy, and fluff, you'll start thinking like a spectator. But if you read wisdom, strategies, and truth, you'll start thinking like a master. So stop reading to escape your problems. Start reading to solve them. Choose books that expand your perspective, strengthen your beliefs, or break them when necessary. Choose material that adds something to your mental arsenal. And most importantly, don't just read it, absorb it, reflect on it, use it. Because a well-read man who never applies what he knows is no better than the man who never read at all. 3rd question. Everything, even me. Most people live their entire lives inside a cage built by others. Their beliefs, borrowed, their opinions, inherited, their choices, controlled. They don't even realize they're stuck because the bars of their mental prison are invisible. And the saddest part, they guard those bars themselves. Listen to me carefully. If you want to be free, you must question everything. Even the things you were taught to never question. Even the voices that sound wise. Even mine. Don't follow me. Learn from me, then go beyond me. Most people are trained to obey, to repeat what they've heard, to accept without proof, to believe without investigation. But that's not education, that's programming. And a programmed mind is predictable, weak, and easy to control. A strong mind doesn't just absorb, it analyzes. It doesn't just accept, it asks why. Why do I believe this? Where did this idea come from? Is it based on truth or just tradition? Is it mine or was it handed to me? When I trained, I didn't just copy techniques, I studied their purpose. I asked, does this work in real life? Does it apply in all situations? Can it be improved? That's why I evolved beyond styles. I didn't want to be a slave to any system, not martial, not mental. You want to stay ahead of 99% of people. Then never stop questioning, even your own thoughts, especially your own thoughts. Because the mind is a tricky thing. It will lie to protect your ego. It will convince you that you already know enough, that you're already right, that you don't need to learn anymore. But a true warrior, a true thinker, knows this. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you actually know. So next time someone tells you what to think, how to live, what's possible or impossible, pause, don't react. Question it, examine it, then decide for yourself. Because freedom doesn't start with rebellion. It starts with reflection. 4. Train in silence, rise in power. Let me tell you something that 99% of people will never understand. Growth does not happen in noise. It happens in silence. You don't become powerful by performing for the world. You become powerful by training in private, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, and when no one even believes in you. Too many people are addicted to being seen. They want to show every step of their journey, every workout, every quote, every late night hustle. But the truth is, the strongest warriors do their work in the dark. They build in silence. And that's why their rise seems sudden to the world. It wasn't. It was just unseen. When I was building myself physically, mentally, spiritually, I wasn't seeking attention. I was seeking mastery. I studied when others were partying. I trained when others were sleeping. I meditated while others complained. Why? Because greatness doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in solitude. People think silence is weakness. Number silence is preparation. It's the sharpening of the blade before battle. It's where your mind becomes clear, focused, deadly. Silence is where you study your enemies, where you reflect on your flaws, where you learn who you really are without the noise of the world trying to define you. In the silence, there is no applause, there is no praise, there is no audience to motivate you, just you and the truth. And if you can train in that space, if you can still show up with no recognition, no reward, and no validation, then you're building something unstoppable. Look around you. Most people need motivation from the outside. They need likes, followers, compliments, approval. They'll only move when someone's watching. But you, if you want to lead, if you want to separate yourself from the crowd, learn to move when no one is watching. Learn to sharpen your mind and body in secret, because that's where real power is born. I used to say, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Do you know where that man trains? Not in the spotlight, not in front of a cheering crowd. He trains in silence, obsessively, patiently, relentlessly, until his kick becomes a weapon of precision. This world is loud, chaotic, and distracting. Everyone wants to be loud, to be known, to be seen. But if you can master the silence, if you can thrive in the quiet, you will move differently. You will speak with weight. You will act with intention. And when you finally step into the light, people won't understand how you got so far ahead. They won't know that while they were seeking noise, you were building in peace. So stop explaining your moves, stop announcing your goals, stop waiting for applause, build in silence, learn in silence, rise in silence. And when the time is right, strike like thunder from the quiet. 5. Learn across disciplines, become dangerous. Do not limit your mind to one way, one style, one box. That is how people become predictable. That is how they become weak. You want to be dangerous? Then learn from everywhere, not just from your field, not just from your comfort zone. Learn across disciplines, blend knowledge from different worlds, and you will become unstoppable. When I was training, I didn't just study martial arts. I studied philosophy, psychology, acting, dance, fencing, even poetry. Why? Because I knew the truth. Power comes from diversity. The broader your understanding, the more refined your expression. I learned rhythm from dance, grace from poetry, reaction from boxing, and awareness from Zen. The average mind sticks to one lane, one path, one method. But the master mind sees connections between everything. That's what makes him dangerous. He isn't playing the same game as everyone else. He's designing his own. If you only study what others in your field study, you'll become like them. You'll think like them, move like them, be limited like them. But when you learn from unexpected places, when you combine knowledge from art, science, strategy, and spirit, you start to create your own style, your own rhythm, your own edge. I called this Jeet Kune Do, the art of no style. Why? Because truth is never limited to one form. Water takes the shape of whatever it touches. Your mind must be the same. Flow into different knowledge. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, and add what is uniquely your own. Let me be clear. This is not about knowing a little bit of everything. It's about extracting deep principles from many areas and weaving them into your own mastery. It's about seeing how balance in nature teaches you timing, how business strategy teaches you combat positioning, how acting teaches you presence and control, how philosophy teaches you clarity of thought. It's all connected. But you can't see that if you're stuck in one world. People who specialize too narrowly often break when the world shifts. They become rigid, outdated, irrelevant. But the one who has learned to adapt, to evolve, to connect disciplines, he becomes timeless. He survives every shift, every storm. You don't want to be a one-dimensional fighter. You don't want to be the smartest person in a narrow room. You want to be the kind of mind that can walk into any arena, physical, mental, spiritual, and still dominate. So I ask you, what are you studying outside your comfort zone? What have you learned lately that has nothing to do with your main goal, but everything to do with your evolution? If your answer is nothing, then start today. Pick up a book in a new subject. Talk to someone from a different world. Train in an unfamiliar art. Watch how fast your mind grows. Watch how quickly you begin to think differently from the crowd. Because when you learn across disciplines, you become unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're unstoppable. 6. Apply what you learn or lose it. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. That's a truth most people miss. They think reading a book makes them wise. They think watching a motivational video makes them disciplined. No, it doesn't. Information without action is nothing but illusion. A sword that's never used becomes dull. A lesson that's never practiced disappears. You can fill your mind with all the right words. You can memorize quotes, listen to mentors, even take notes every day. But if you don't apply what you learn in your real life, when it counts, then you're just collecting dust in your head. When I learned something new, I didn't wait a week to test it. I brought it into my training the same day. I didn't admire the principle from a distance. I put it under pressure. Can this idea survive contact with reality? That's how you separate truth from theory. That's how you make wisdom your own. There's a sickness in the world today. People are addicted to consuming information. They binge videos, they collect books, they attend seminars, but they never do the inner work. They never apply it when their emotions flare up. They never use it when life punches them in the face. That's not learning, that's entertainment. A warrior doesn't learn to look smart. He learns to survive, to win, to stay calm in chaos, to act with precision under stress. That kind of learning doesn't come from repetition alone. It comes from implementation. If you read about patience, don't just nod your head. Practice it the next time someone disrespects you. If you study discipline, don't just share a quote. Wake up early and train, even when you feel lazy. If you learn about ego, don't just preach about it. Catch yourself the next time you feel the need to prove a point. The battlefield is where knowledge is tested, not the classroom. The world doesn't care what you know. It only responds to what you do. You see, every time you learn something and don't apply it, your mind starts to forget it. It begins to say, this must not be important. That's how knowledge fades. But every time you apply it, even in small moments, you carve it deeper into your mind. You train your instincts. You build muscle memory for the soul. Imagine this. You read about staying calm during conflict. You understand it completely. But then one day, someone insults you. And instead of staying calm, you explode. In that moment, your mind shows you the truth. You knew the lesson, but you didn't own it. Owning a lesson means it becomes part of who you are. Not just what you say. People can hear your words, but they feel your energy. If your actions don't match your knowledge, you'll be exposed. That's why most people sound wise, but live small. Don't let your wisdom be fake. Don't let your knowledge rot in your mind. Put it to work. Every lesson you apply becomes a weapon in your arsenal, a tool you can rely on, a layer of power that others can't see, but will feel. That's why I lived the way I did. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was testing my philosophy in real time. I was my own experiment. I said, be like water, but I had to become like water in every situation. I had to practice it when I was challenged, when I was doubted, when I was in pain. And let me tell you, applying wisdom is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It requires presence. It requires awareness. It demands that you stop reacting from old habits and start acting from new principles. But that's where transformation begins. So ask yourself, what have you learned recently? And have you truly applied it? Not once, but consistently. Can you see the change in your behavior, your mindset, your discipline? If not, then it's time to stop collecting and start embodying. You don't need more knowledge. You need to live the knowledge you already have. You need to practice it, stumble with it, fail with it, until it becomes effortless. Because once wisdom moves from your head into your hands, once it becomes instinct, you don't just understand the path, you become the path. 7. Make learning a daily ritual, not a random act. Listen to me carefully. If you only learn when you feel motivated, you will always fall behind. If you only seek growth when life is easy, you will never rise above the average. The world is full of people who learn sometimes, who train when it's convenient, who improve once in a while. And that is exactly why they never reach the top. If you want to be in the top 1%, you have to think, move, and live differently from the other 99%. That starts with this. Make learning a ritual, not a random act, not something you do when you're inspired, but something you do every day, like breathing. When I say ritual, I mean it must become part of your identity, a sacred habit, something that happens no matter what. Whether you're tired, busy, angry, bored, discouraged, it doesn't matter. You still study, you still reflect, you still learn. That's what separates the committed from the curious. I train my mind the same way I train my body, with intention, with structure, with discipline. Every day I read. Every day I wrote down my thoughts. Every day I asked questions, challenged myself, reviewed my actions. It wasn't about cramming more information. It was about staying sharp, staying aware, staying ready. You see, knowledge is like a blade. If you don't sharpen it every day, it dulls. If you let a day pass without learning something meaningful, you've taken a step backward. That's how the average man lives. But you, if you want to be a warrior in the mind, you must show up to your ritual like your life depends on it, because it does. Let me be real with you. The world doesn't care how smart you are once. It doesn't care how disciplined you are once. Your greatness is not measured by your best day. It's measured by your daily standard. That's why your rituals matter more than your goals. Your rituals are the foundation. Your rituals build the mindset that can handle the mission. So ask yourself, what does your daily learning ritual look like? Is it 10 minutes of reading something powerful in the morning? Is it reflecting in silence at night before you sleep? Is it writing down your thoughts, breaking down your mistakes, and extracting lessons from them? Is it listening to mentors, applying their wisdom, and testing it in your life? Whatever it is, it must be daily. You don't need hours, you just need consistency. Even 20 minutes a day compounds over time into mental mastery. That's how you stay ahead of people who are smarter, more talented, or better resourced than you. Let me tell you something else. The discipline to learn every day does more than build knowledge. It builds self-respect. Because when you keep that promise to yourself, when you show up daily for your mind, you begin to trust yourself. You walk with different energy. You stop chasing approval because you know the work you've done in silence. And that self-respect radiates. People can feel it. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll notice it. You'll speak with clarity. You'll make decisions faster. You'll carry yourself with calm authority. Why? Because your learning isn't shallow. It's lived. It's a part of who you are. This is how I lived. I didn't study to impress people. I studied to become free. I didn't just want to know more. I wanted to understand more about life, about conflict, about myself. And that journey never ended. Because true learning isn't a phase, it's a lifestyle. Now understand this, the world is moving fast. Technology is evolving. Information is exploding. Distractions are multiplying, and most people are drowning in it. They don't know what matters. They don't have focus. They don't have clarity because they don't have rituals. But you have a choice. You can train your mind to cut through the noise, to filter what matters, to adapt quickly, respond intelligently, and grow endlessly. That starts with your daily ritual. So starting today, commit to it. Block the time, remove the distractions, show up for your mind. Every day, no excuses, no breaks. Even if it's just one page, one insight, one reflection, honor it, protect it, build it. Because the man who learns once in a while can be impressive for a moment, but the man who learns every day, he becomes unstoppable for a lifetime. And remember, one day, your body may slow down. Your possessions may fade, but the strength of your mind, the wisdom you built through daily learning, that's yours forever. So don't just learn when it's easy, learn when it's hard, learn when no one is watching, learn when the world is loud. Make learning your ritual and you will rise beyond anyone's imagination. 8. Stay a student forever. Mastery demands humility. Let me tell you something most people never learn in their entire lives. The moment you think you know enough is the moment you begin to fall behind. You want to stay ahead of 99%? Then stay a student forever. Never let your mind become arrogant. Never let your ego convince you that you've arrived. The world is always changing. Life is always evolving. And the people who refuse to keep learning get left behind. I saw this in martial arts all the time. A fighter wins a few matches, gains some attention, and suddenly he stops learning. He stops training like a beginner. He thinks he's above failure. And that's when he gets humbled, quickly and brutally. Why? Because his ego closed the door on growth. But me, I trained like a student every single day, even when I was teaching others, even when the world called me a master, because I knew the truth. Mastery doesn't mean you stop learning. It means you've fallen in love with learning. Understand this. The beginner's mind is one of the most powerful weapons you can possess. Why? Because a beginner is open, curious, humble, eager to grow. The beginner doesn't assume, they explore. And that mindset, if kept alive, turns you into a lifelong weapon of evolution. Most people lose their edge because they lose their humility. They start defending what they know instead of seeking what they don't. They become attached to being right instead of being real. And that's when the decline begins. I made it a rule. Every day, I must learn something new. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted to stay strong. I read books outside my comfort zone. I asked questions even when I had experience. I observed people, environments, emotions, like a student walking into the classroom of life every morning. That's what kept me sharp. That's what made me dangerous. Humility doesn't make you soft, it makes you adaptable. It keeps your mind flexible, ready to receive, ready to shift. And in a world that changes so fast, flexibility is survival. I want you to hear this deeply. The moment you become unteachable, you become breakable. The moment you think you've seen it all, you become blind to the new. The moment you think you've done enough, you stop becoming better. Your competitors might not be more talented, but if they're learning more than you, eventually they'll surpass you, not because they were greater, but because they stayed open longer. You can have skills, strength, intelligence, but if you lose your student mindset, you'll become rigid. You'll repeat the same moves, the same habits, the same thoughts, and eventually the world will evolve past you. That's why I trained in so many different styles. That's why I studied different philosophies. I didn't want to be locked in one box, one mindset. I wanted to move through life with awareness, with fluidity, with insight. And that came from one decision: to stay a student. Let me make something clear. Being a student doesn't mean you doubt yourself. It means you trust yourself enough to keep growing. It means you're not afraid to be wrong, to be challenged, to evolve. A true student is not weak. A true student is powerful because they're always upgrading, always refining, always listening. Ask yourself, when was the last time you really learned something new? When was the last time you stepped into a situation with no ego and said, "Teach me"? When was the last time you admitted, "I don't know enough," and used that as fuel to become better? Don't just collect knowledge. Let it change you. Let it humble you. Let it remind you that you are always becoming. And don't confuse movement with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're growing. Just because you're succeeding doesn't mean you're evolving. You grow when you reflect, when you challenge your beliefs, when you stretch your mind beyond its current shape. So how do you stay a student? You read widely, not just what confirms your views, but what expands them. You surround yourself with people who stretch you, not just praise you. You ask questions, not to sound smart, but to become wise. You observe deeply, not just what people say, but what they reveal when they don't speak. You welcome feedback, not as an attack, but as a mirror. You train daily, not because you're not good enough, but because you respect the craft enough to never stop improving. And most importantly, you never let comfort convince you to pause. Growth lives just outside your comfort zone. Stay there. Sit in that tension. Learn to love that discomfort, because that's where the fire of mastery lives. Look, your path will never be perfect. You will make mistakes. You will fall. You will outgrow your old self again and again. That's part of the journey. But if you keep learning, truly learning, you will always rise higher than before. So let this be your mantra. I am a student. Every day for life. Not just in the dojo, not just in the library, not just when it's convenient, but in every moment, every conversation, every challenge. Because the man who stays a student becomes a master, and the master who keeps learning becomes legendary. You've heard the lessons. You've felt the fire. Now ask yourself, what will you do with it? Because the truth is, information alone changes nothing. Action does, reflection does, discipline does. You can watch videos, read books, follow great minds, but if you don't move, if you don't live what you've learned, it all fades into noise. You want to stay ahead of 99% of people? Then don't just learn like them. Don't just talk like them. Don't just think like them. Outgrow them. Train your mind like a weapon. Sharpen it every day. Question everything. Read with purpose. Apply every insight. Build your rituals. Stay humble and never stop evolving. Because the greatest enemy of growth is comfort, and the greatest power of the mind is its ability to transform you into someone you never imagined you could be. So don't wait, don't delay, don't scroll to the next distraction. Start now. Feed your mind with the discipline it's been starving for. Every single day, educate your mind, and you won't just rise above the average. You'll leave them wondering how you did it, and now go and never stop becoming.